Even though the Game Boy Color wasn't the first handheld console I ever owned, it was definitely one of my favorites of all time. I was such a fan of the Game Boy Color's form factor, style, and the games that it had. I ended up getting my first Game Boy Color after the Game Boy Advance came out. Fast forwarding to 2021, I have really fallen in love with all of the posts that I've seen with people modding the Game Boy Color, as they've really become a work of art and modernized with IPS displays, making it a much more pleasurable gaming experience in today's date. So in this video, we're going to be giving this Game Boy Color the ultimate facelift by installing a enlarged IPS display from FunnyPlaying, along with the pre-cut shell, some new buttons, and really giving this Game Boy Color a modern renovation. So starting off with this mod, we're going to need to disassemble our original Game Boy Color. Go ahead and remove the battery cover and any batteries you might have inside the Game Boy. Then go ahead and unscrew the 6 tri-wing screws that can be found on the edges of the Game Boy, and then 2 inside of the battery compartment. Go ahead and remove the back half of the Game Boy and you will have full access to the inside and the motherboard. On the inside, go ahead and remove the 3 Phillips screws that hold the motherboard to the top side of the shell. Then we are going to remove the ribbon cable connected to the motherboard, which is the ribbon cable that comes from the screen. Go ahead and unlatch the ribbon cable connector, and the ribbon cable should slide right out. Next, we are turning our attention towards the Q5 IPS display, and we're going to start off by sticking the insulating film on the back of the IPS screen. Once that's applied, go ahead and remove the 3M two-sided adhesive that is on the edge of the bezels on the back side of the display. Once that's removed, the display is ready to mount to the top side of the shell. This is a one-piece IPS display where the lens is actually attached to the display, so it gets installed from the front of the shell, or top side of the shell. Be mindful of the ribbon cable on the IPS display, and just make sure it doesn't get damaged when you install the screen to the shell. Next, we need to do some prep to the motherboard that is included with this IPS display that actually interfaces with the Game Boy Color motherboard. We're going to start off by soldering a couple of the included wires to the start and select contacts on the board and ribbon cable to the display. Once that's applied, we can go ahead and attach this board to the back of the IPS display by the connector that is on the bottom left corner of the display. Once it's connected, you can secure it a little bit better with some Kapton tape. Next, we can go ahead and insert the ribbon cable into the Game Boy Color motherboard. There are a couple vias on the front side or top side of the motherboard that we're going to need to solder the start and select wires that we had just soldered to the board to our display. So the first wire you guys are seeing me do is the wire coming from the start, and the upper spot we are soldering to is the contact point for the select. Once that's done, you can go ahead and insert the buttons and go ahead and remount the motherboard to the top side of the Game Boy shell. If you guys are kind of confused on what these wires are for, it is actually for the extra functionality in the IPS display, the Q5 from FunnyPlaying, as this will give us the functionality to adjust the screen as far as the alignment goes, and then adjust the RGB colors in the Game Boy Color logo. Next, solder the leftover included wire to the power switch, and more specifically on the pin labeled C. Then solder the other end of that wire to the ribbon cable where it says power. Lastly, we need to solder the touch sensor to the other contact on the ribbon cable. You want to solder this in a way to where the touch sensor will lay flat at the top of the Game Boy, and then you can secure it with a piece of Kapton tape. I apologize, I did not do a good job filming this part, so I just have a couple screenshots here, but I will link a video tutorial that I followed from Macho Nacho Productions, as he does a really good job showing on how he soldered all of this stuff in. And that is pretty much it. All we have to do is insert the power switch in the IR cover, button back up the Game Boy with the tri-wing screws, insert some batteries, and see if it runs. I could not be happier with the way this Game Boy Color mod turned out. Even though it's super popular, I do love the all-white color scheme, and the FunnyPlaying white bezel on the IPS display just looks fantastic all tied in together. So obviously the biggest part of this mod was installing the FunnyPlaying Q5 IPS display. Even though there was some soldering involved, the installation really wasn't bad at all. I myself am pretty amateur at soldering. I definitely haven't done a whole lot of soldering, and I was able to do it okay. I definitely would recommend using a little bit finer tip on your soldering iron, as there are some parts you need to solder that are a little bit hard to get to, especially around the power switch and some very small vias for connecting the start and select buttons. I think the Q5 kit from FunnyPlaying is probably the best bang for buck as far as an IPS screen upgrade for the Game Boy Color. This screen definitely has some of the best quality, and it is 20 to 25% larger than a lot of the plug and play IPS upgrades for the Game Boy Color, and it comes very feature packed with the RGB color spectrum of the logo, alignment of the screen, and then there's even different pixel types that you can apply to your screen to give it a little bit different look. So this IPS display is extremely feature rich, and it is just an absolutely stunning looking display, and it's an absolute joy to game on. So I would definitely consider this to be an S tier upgrade for a Game Boy Color mod compared to a lot of the other IPS options on the market. Another thing that made this installation so easy, or easier than it could have been, is the fact that we did get a FunnyPlaying Q5 kit. So this also did include the pre-cut Game Boy Color shell, which saves a lot of time and headache not having to cut out the shell to fit the screen. I've always been a huge fan of the Game Boy Color form factor. This actually wasn't the first Game Boy I ever owned, but I did have a Color back in the day. Played a lot of Pokemon on it and really enjoyed it. And lately, playing on this Game Boy, I have really enjoyed going back to a lot of those games, and I really miss the simplicity of a lot of those games. There's something to be said for just being able to pick up a device like this and quickly load up a game and make some progress in it, and being able to put it back down, as I definitely don't get this feeling with a lot of modern day consoles like the Nintendo Switch, as I feel like it's a much bigger investment when you pick it up, especially with the complex games that are available now. That is it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like on it, as I am curious to see if you guys would like to see more videos like this, modding older gaming hardware in handhelds from Nintendo, as I really enjoyed doing this project. If you want to see more tech related videos like this one, be sure to subscribe. As always, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.